Yeah, tell me about Bob. Can you remember the first time you met him?
Oh, I think I can. Oh, well, yeah, of course I can. It's when I was doing my dissertation research, and I went up and interviewed him and found out about Eric Sade and Raymond Scott and Wendy Carlos. I mean, I knew of Carlos, but how to get in touch with him. He facilitated that. So I interviewed him sitting out there on the roof of the first floor, and that's the first time I met him. The first time it became apparent to me that I might get involved with the Moog Company is possibly the Atlanta NAM. They used to have them in a NAM trade show, and we talked a bit and everything. And I got the idea then, well, maybe I'd like to do that. I didn't do it right away, but he struck me as a soulful kind of person, the person that would be attractive to me, uh, not superficial, not ponderous, pretentious, totally uninterested in his PhD and academic achievements and, living a real life, but what I thought of as an authentic life. And I'm sure I stole that from somebody. Uh, yeah. And it just struck me that would be a lot of fun maybe to do that. And I'd been 10 years in college, four of undergraduate and six of graduate. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. Maybe I was allergic to it. It was like, okay, I've done that enough. I'm going to go into business somehow. I wound up going to work for less, and then Dave Van Koevering pulled me to up there. And I will say, inauspicious, when I first started coming to Buffalo, Bob greeted me with, "Well, welcome to the decadent Northeast. I don't know what you're going to do but here, but he didn't really have any idea what my value might be, and that was okay. Uh, I was reasonably young, even with a PhD earned and so forth, and I've never expected people to just open their arms and say, "Oh well, we know who you are and what you are and what you could do." And no, you have to prove that over and over. And I guess then we got to know each other quite well from coming to each other's homes and stuff like that. I knew his first wife Shirley real well. That eventuated. Bob had a checkered relationship with Moog, not just Vancouvering and me. Bob Moog, the Moog of Moogs, had a checkered relationship. He left the company, and in some ways, I was there longer than he was. And it's particularly in a particular era. But eventually, he started doing design for other companies and things. And when I was not with the Moog company at various times, I helped him. So did Jim Scott. We've spoken of Jim Scott previously. Uh, Jim, too, more as the technical, and me, I think Bob began to understand that what I said was maybe right. Maybe the guy that does the explaining to the customer ought to be there to tell the engineers this is too complicated. We have to express this a different way, and possibly the functions are not even right for a musician, which I did get the opportunity, not when Bob was with the company, but when it was being uh, run by Norland to become the project chief on the Prodigy, which was the best-selling synthesizer of 19 Humpty Hump. I don't remember, 82 something. Doesn't matter. And it started as a rump project or a skunkworks thing by Rich Walburn, designed a little tiny Moog. And oh, I changed the ergonomics. It probably created a little ill will, but I felt like I knew what I was doing. The upshot is it was successful. You know, I put in sync, oscillator sync for a junk sound, and a number of things. As a matter of fact, I wrote a little paper saying this is why I did this and that and this, why all the panel was moved around and stuff like that. So I had a number of very positive experiences. In terms of Bob, I mean, Bob was the kind of guy that, uh, as he was in Asheville and I was in Nashville, we didn't see each other every day, but when we did, it was just like your brother, somebody that was important to you. And I felt that he reciprocated that to a large extent. Um, So we would do odd projects with each other and little design things and stuff like that when he was not with the company and when I was not with the company and things like that. And over the years, I watched his kids grow up, you know, and was there staying in his home when I would visit in Asheville, staying overnight and just becoming like a family friend in many, many ways. So he was another one of those people that simply knowing him enriched my life. Raymond Scott, Bob Moog, even Eric, who I just knew briefly, some of my mentors, Gil Trithall, Charlie Ball at Peabody, and a number of those people. I just felt like, yeah, I have a more authentic life, a more rich life, a more interesting life because I've met these people, and just interacted with them in some sort of a way. And there were the artists. I worked with Keith Emerson, Rick Wakeman, just briefly with Miroslav Vitu. I had nothing to say to Jan Hammer. We interacted, but God, he was so, far ahead of my understanding of the wheel. Although I tried to convince him of the ribbon that was on the microphone. He was so good at the wheel, he didn't need the ribbon. The ribbon was superior. I mean, I could say, why, but it didn't matter. Jan played the other one so well. And that we've spoken earlier about this handheld portable thing. I know that Moog Custom Engineering built a mini Moog and took it all apart and had it on a swivel and, had the keyboard up here and something else over there for Jan. And then it seems that he got involved either with Roger Powell with the Probe, which was kind of a lightweight plastic thing, very modern looking, or with somebody else. And then he had that special thing. And there was the Dookie stick from George Duke, and Tom Custer started playing the Liberation, which was a Moog product. And he did all that whammy guitar, as he called it, and really was incredible playing. He would come to NAMM, Tom Custer, and play there's solo lines, that's all he was doing, but he's playing so fast that it was almost streamed into sounding almost polyphonic. And all these arpeggiated passages and everything, bends and everything. People would just draw away from all over the floor to come, what is that? What in the world is that? Electrifying. And again, hey, I'm a monophonic guy. I really believe in it. And I think when people try to do what I'm saying, make a piece where every line is a solo. Gee, isn't that what the orchestra does? Works pretty well. Works pretty damn well. Symphony orchestra. Rarely are people in there playing two notes at the same time. Again, many, many degrees of freedom. 100 people, all individually responsible for this overall. There's never really more than 4 or 5 lines in an orchestra, in the music. Rarely, unless you're doing Ligeti or somebody like that. Standard literature, you 2, 3, 5 lines, and yeah, you got this texture that's so incredible because each of those people are responsible for the detail and the nuance of this filigree that makes up this entire tapestry. So I would like people to try to make more artistic art music with synthesizers. I'm not sure that's going to happen. I'm not sure people are going to play things artistically because the studio or the performance seems to be either or. People have skills as a performer or possibly as a composer. Rarely do they have both. And it could be that, well, this is what we get. This just incredible proliferation of various styles and sundry forms of expression, which you certainly could not get from a lot of acoustic instruments. They have idiomatic expression, as it's called, what they do well. You really have a much broader range with electric instruments because they're capable. Form doesn't follow function. To make a cymbal sound, you got to beat this brass light stuff into a certain shape. To make a clarinet, you got to have this grenadillo pear wood or rosewood or something, and it's got to be shaped, and it has to have a certain form. Electronic things don't; they're not subject to that. Basically, two-edged sword. Gives you great freedom, and it makes you also, you can do crap, you know, physical modeling. You can make the sound of a 100-mile long tube being blown by a jet engine. It's very interesting. You know, is it crap? I don't know. You could do impossible things, in other words. But you find again, about do we have infinite temporal space or infinite anything? I don't like the concept because the infinity of even numbers and odd numbers are two different infinities. It's meaningless. No, I'm much more interested that the artist would work with tools and have a cabinet of tools, not one digital audio workstation. I just don't think it could be the future just for financial reasons. Artistically, no, I don't think so. Look at a luthier or a furniture designer. Go and look at their tools. Little gouges with different shapes on the end and everything, for making precisely this little thing here. I'd much rather that my students did a cross-platform look at tools rather than saying, well, I'm going to do, Reactor and I'm going to put everything into GarageBand, or I'm going to do this. And I'm trying to teach them that, maybe the sounds that are most interesting, the little on the front is made from that instrument over there, and the little over here is made from that one over there, and the is from yet a third. And across these platforms, rather than designing your sounds, here's a patch on the Belchfire 8 or the Rooster Poop 9, there it is. And here's another patch, and here's another patch. Well, what does that fit, by the way? MIDI. The program is on tracks. It forces you almost to do that. It would take great discipline to say, I have designed an instrument and it takes 3 rack modules to make that instrument. How many people, again, that detail that I keep coming back to. In film, look at the crawl. Look at the number of people involved in making a film. My Lord, it's like thousands. You have roach wranglers and rat wranglers. I mean, you have people that have specialties that it's hard to even imagine, of what it takes to make a film. And yet somehow it becomes a cohesive thing, very stuck together. But that level of detail is what we appreciate, I think, as human beings. Or a stark contrast, utter simplicity. We can also appreciate. But naivete and simplicity wears a little thin. Detail has such great depth, you can simply hear it over and over again, look at it over and over again, touch it, whatever you're doing. What kind of art are you doing? We need detail. So, Bob, yeah. I wrote an article, and I'll send you the URL. It's online, and it basically said there are many people that do prototypes, but only one guy did an archetype for an industry. It was Bob for that industry. Not only that, he wasn't such a bad businessman. He made a lot of real good decisions. He wasn't a good businessman for a corporate structure, which is where it went to. But then again, how good were those businessmen that ran it into the ground? So it's like, yeah, compared to what? Not a bad businessman. All those guys with MBAs, they didn't make it go. They had all the options in the world to make it go. They didn't make it go. And again, there were some good people there too. Smart, you know. Again, it's like your life hanging by threads, how you met your intended, why you went to school where you did, you didn't get killed by getting hit by a train, and hanging by threads, Mars aligned with Jupiter and so forth and so on, that you would have a great film, that you would have a great instrument, that you would have a great life. And if you accept that, then you exert control where you can and with the wisdom that you can possibly muster to make a good instrument or make a great film or make a good life kind of thing. Never forgetting you're not totally in control here. You're not in charge. If things screw up, you can't be looking at the outcome all the time. You got to look at the energy that you put into it to make it go. And if you've done that, okay, that should be sufficient. I asked Hugh Kane, how would you like to be remembered? The great Canadian instrument designer, although all prototypes, he never got something like really into the marketplace, but he had genius. And I asked him, well, how would you like to be remembered? He says, oh, I would just like to be remembered as a worker in the vineyard. I think some of the men we've talked about, Jim Scott, Dave Luce, Bob Moog, David Van Koevering, any number of people, at basis, they were just so happy to be in the vineyard. They were so glad and so happy to be taking something into their life that just totally energized them, that they were just almost like happy to be there in the vineyard. And you work. When you're in the vineyard, you work. That's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wouldn't trade my life for anybody else's. I really wouldn't. I mean, you know, see the world without joining the Navy and those experiences, those nows, those things one after the other, uh, without recourse to whether or not you're famous or rich or any of that stuff. That's why there's a basic rub where I work. It's like, well, this is sort of about being famous and being rich. When you're symphonic trumpet players, I started out, you never think you'll get women, get rich, or get famous by blowing second trumpet with a Nashville Symphony. Well, ain't in the cards. You walk through a conservatory and you ask people, well, are you going to get rich or famous because you're here as a musician? They'll laugh you out of the place. So, for better or for worse, if the fame and the riches come, wonderful. But if to me, if you made that your motivation, why would you do that? When I think about Bob, Luce, Scott, even Vaco, as wild-eyed as he could seem at times, they were never motivated by that. They were doing it as they went, having a life as you go. And that's why it was such a lot of fun for me, because I could witness that and I could be part of it. A lot of fun. So,